What is going on, everybody? This is DaKingMoy here, and today I have a video which surprisingly isn't on 2K. This is just purely a basketball made video because it's something which everybody speaks about all the time, and I thought as a basketball fan I would let you guys know my opinions. Today I will be ranking, in my opinion, the top 10 players ever. Now obviously this is very subject to debate as everyone's list is different. I just hope you guys understand mine and my reasoning for it. I know some of you guys will have completely different opinions in the comment section below, so try not to crucify mine too much. Just let me know your top 10 list and how it differs to mine. It's also very difficult to fit 10 players on this list because throughout NBA history there's been so many good players. So without further ado, let's get into this video and find out who I rank as a top 10 basketball player of all time. Number 10, Tim Duncan. Now Timmy D is a hard one when it comes to discussing the best basketball players of all time, and many people have labelled him the most boring superstar ever. In 19 years in the league, Tim Duncan won 5 NBA championships, participated in 18 All-Star games, won 2 MVPs and 3 Finals MVPs. He made the All-NBA first team 10 times and All-NBA first defensive team 8 times. Tim Duncan never led the league in scoring and won Rookie of the Year. Throughout his career, Tim Duncan has averaged a double-double, also shooting more than 50% from the field. He's a career 19 points per game scorer. He's averaged 19 points per game throughout his career, which is very impressive for someone who's been playing limited minutes for the last 5 years. So that's obviously going to take its toll on his stats. Duncan averaged 2.2 blocks per game and almost a steal. He scored 26 plus thousand points, grabbed a total of almost 16,000 rebounds, 4,000 assists, over 3,000 blocks, and played 1,392 games. Duncan, for a power forward, is also not too bad a free throw shooter, shooting 69% of the line. Duncan is a 5-time NBA champion and has changed the Spurs franchise forever. However, I only have him at 10th place on my list because I do not think as an individual he is as good as the other players. Also, one thing I take into consideration is Tim Duncan did have one of the greatest NBA coaches of all time, Greg Popovich, for his entire career, and has played with so many great players such as Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, David Robinson, Kawhi Leonard, and now LaMarcus Aldridge. Duncan potentially may have cost his team an NBA championship in Game 7 of the 2013-14 finals, but we must understand that when you've been in the league 19 years, there's always going to be some things we can pick at, and looking back on Tim Duncan's career, there's very little you can fault him for. This is my reasoning for having Tim Duncan as a top 10 player in NBA history. Let me know where you guys would rank Tim Duncan amongst the best players of all time. Number 9, Bill Russell. Now, because Bill Russell played 50 years before I was born, it's quite difficult to understand the circumstances of the NBA back in his time. However, the stats and numbers speak for themselves. In 13 seasons in the league, Bill Russell made the playoffs 13 times, winning 11 NBA championships. He also participated in 12 All-Star games. He was a 5-time MVP of the league, but never won a Finals MVP. Despite being one of the best defensive players of all time, he only made the All-Defensive team once. Never did Bill Russell lead the league in scoring, or did he ever win a Defensive Player of the Year. Bill Russell was undersized at his position but still led the league in rebounds 4 times. Throughout his regular season career, he averaged 15 points per game, a staggering 22.5 rebounds per game, which is obviously, like I said earlier, sensational for his height. 4.3 assists per game. It's impossible to say how many steals or blocks he had either, because statistics weren't as big a thing back then. Bill Russell scored 14,500 points, grabbed over 21,000 rebounds, and dished out over 4,000 assists in 963 games in the regular season. One thing people hold Bill Russell accountable for is he was just the best player on a team of Hall of Famers, in a league which at that time was pretty much the Boston Celtics versus whatever team Wilt Chamberlain played for. Boston Celtics obviously coming out on top the majority of the time because one man can't win a championship alone. Bill Russell definitely stepped his game up in the playoffs, averaging 25 rebounds throughout his playoff career, 16 points and almost 5 assists. However, I'm just basing this opinion straight off of statistics because there's no way of me knowing how good Bill Russell really was. And I doubt any of you guys. Number 8, Larry Bird. Probably the greatest white basketball player ever. A player who did so much for the game, including giving us one of the greatest rivalries between him and Magic Johnson in the 80s, and is debatably the best player in Celtics history. Larry Bird won 3 NBA championships, 3 regular season MVPs, and 2 Finals MVPs. He also played alongside some great players such as Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish, and is known to be one of the greatest all-time clutch shooters. You can make a case for him being the greatest trash talker of all all time and the king of the three-point contest. Bird played 13 seasons in the league, and before LeBron James came along was universally recognised as the greatest small forward to ever play. Bird won Rookie of the Year in his first season, but never led the league in scoring. He made 3 all-defensive teams and the All-NBA team 10 times. Bird in the regular season averaged 24.3 points per game, 10 rebounds per game and 6.3 assists, also averaging almost 2 steals per game and 1 block throughout his regular season career. Bird scored almost 22,000 points in the regular season and grabbed almost 9,000 rebounds. Bird in the regular season shot 49% from the field and 37% for free. He was an 86% free throw shooter, and in 1998 he averaged 30 points per game. His best year for rebounds was in 1983, where he grabbed about 11 rebounds a night. In 1987 he averaged 7.6 assists per game. Bird averaged a double-double throughout his playoff career, away up at 24 and 10. Bird averaged a double-double when the stakes were at his highest in the playoffs, averaging 24 and 10. He scored almost 4,000 points in his playoffs career and won 3 championships in one of the most competitive eras in basketball, playing against the Showtime Lakers with Magic, Worthy and Kareem, a young Bulls team which were making some noise, a Dominique Wilkins Hawks, a 76ers Dr. J, and of course the bad boy Pistons. I believe Larry Bird is the second best small forward to play the game, behind only one, but I'll get into it number 7. Number 7, LeBron James. The chosen one, the heir apparent, the one who convinced the world he would surpass Michael Jordan in every way. Something he is yet to do, but I wouldn't write off LBJ and his greatness, especially at this point in his career. Now, I do believe LeBron James will climb higher on this list, but I can't give him credit for things he hasn't done yet. So this is based off what he has done so far in his career. So imagine he just retired today and never came back. LeBron James has won 3 NBA championships in his career. This year winning one of the most memorable championships of all time, beating the greatest team in regular season history in a 7-game series, and fulfilling his promise, bringing a championship to Cleveland. There is no denying LeBron James's greatness as a player, and many, including me, believe him to be an absolute freak of nature, as if he was created in a science lab. Participated in the playoffs 11 times and 12 All-Star games. LeBron was an MVP of the league 4 times and has 3 Finals MVPs along with his 3 NBA championships. There's even a debate that he should have been Finals MVP in the 2014-15 season, where he had a historic finals carrying the Cavaliers, but didn't quite get over the line as Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors came out on top. LeBron James has averaged 27.2 points per game for his career, 7.2 rebounds and 6.9 assists. LeBron James is up there with the greatest passers of all time in that Magic category. He averaged almost a block a game and 1.7 steals. As of right now, I believe him to be the best two-way player in the NBA. And I don't think there has ever been a player more valuable to their team than LeBron James. However, his finals record compared to the other all-time greats isn't exactly amazing. He's 3 of 6 in the finals, and people hold him very accountable for the series in 2011 against the Dallas Mavericks, where the Miami Heat were the overwhelming favourite, and LeBron simply didn't show up, averaging 17 points per game in that series, and was struggling to post up tiny guard JJ Barea. However, in recent years, LeBron James has become one of the greatest playoff performers, and whatever team he plays on is instantly a finals team. That may be a result to the weak Eastern Conference, but it's still very impressive for one individual player. He's made the NBA Finals 6 years running now, and in his career has almost scored 27,000 points. LeBron has almost 7,000 assists in his career and 7,000 rebounds. One thing Larry Bird has to nod over LeBron is LeBron is far from a great 3-point shooter, shooting 34% for free throughout his career. Great shooter in general, as he shoots below 75% from the free throw line. LeBron in the 2006 season averaged 31.4 points per game. His best season for rebounds was in the 2013 season, where he averaged 8, and his best year for assists was in 2010, where he averaged 8.6. LeBron in the playoffs averages 28 points per game and 8.8 rebounds, and will surpass Michael Jordan and become the all-time top scorer in the playoffs next postseason, assuming he stays healthy and doesn't retire to go and play in the NFL. There is no denying the greatness of LeBron, and I think he will continue to climb up this ladder, but I believe it is too early in his career to have him above certain players, which I'll get into later in the video. Remember, this list is based on accomplishments plus talent. In terms of talent, LeBron is a top 3 player of all time, but the accomplishments are what are holding me back from putting him in my top 5 players in NBA history. I do believe LeBron James will end up being a top 6 player when it's all said and done, and may even surpass Kobe Bryant in my eyes if he can win 5 championships. Number 6, Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal is possibly the most dominant player since Wilt Chamberlain in the 1960s. Shaquille O'Neal won 4 championships, 3 with the Los Angeles Lakers, and 1 with the Miami Heat. Shaq was part of one of the greatest 1-2 punches of all time and could have won 7 or 8 championships if he could have got along with Kobe Bryant in LA. However, he left and went to Miami, where him and Dwayne Wade won a championship in 2005-2006. Dwayne Wade being the Batman of that team, winning Finals MVP, averaging 35 plus points. Shaquille O'Neal was a one-time MVP of the league, however was robbed of so many. Steve Nash winning 2 undeserved MVPs, where Shaq was the red-hot favourite to win. Shaq was a 3 times Finals MVP in the same team as Kobe Bryant, and in the finals from years 2000 to 2003 was on another level dominant, averaging historic numbers. Shaq made the All-NBA first team 8 times, made 3 All-Defensive teams, and was the scoring leader twice. Shaq also had one of the best rookie seasons of any players ever, averaging 23 points, 3.5 blocks, and 14 rebounds in his rookie year. Shaq for his career averaged 23 points per game and 10.9 rebounds. Shaq was also one of the most entertaining basketball players of all time. Shaquille O'Neal scored a total of 28,000 points in the regular season and grabbed just over 13,000 rebounds. He also blocked over 2,700 shots and played a total of 1,200 games. Shaq shot 58% from the field and just over 50% from the line. In Shaquille O'Neal's best season, he averaged 29.7 points per game in the year 2000. His best seasons for rebounds and blocks were in his rookie year, where he averaged 13.9 rebounds and 3.5 blocks. Shaq in the playoffs averaged 24.3 points per game, 11.6 rebounds, and 2.1 blocks. In his playoff career, Shaq scored 5,250 points. If he had played the way he did from years 1999 to 2003, he would be definitely a top 5 player. If he had got along with Kobe, laid off the Big Macs, and taken better care of his body, he would almost definitely be there as well. I believe Shaquille O'Neal is the 6th best player of all time. Moving on. Number 5, Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson, the leader of the Showtime Lakers in the 80s. Johnson for his career averaged 19.5 points per game, 7.2 rebounds, and 11.2 assists. He's also one of the most inspirational athletes of all time. Magic won 5 NBA championships in 13 years in the league. Never once in his career did he miss the playoffs, and he made 12 All-Star appearances. Magic Johnson was a 3-time MVP of the league and won 3 Finals MVPs out of his 5 NBA championships. Magic made the All-NBA first team 9 times, but never made any All-Defensive team. He led the league in assists 4 times, but never did he leave the league in scoring. He missed out on Rookie of the Year to arch nemesis Larry Bird as well. However, he did lead the league in steals 2 times. Magic really was a once-in-a-generation type player, playing the point guard position at 6'9", which in today's NBA would be absurd. He scored 17,707 points in his career, pulled over 6,500 rebounds, dished out over 10,000 assists, and had over 1,700 steals. Magic also shot 52% from the field in his career and 30% from free. He was an 84% free throw shooter. His best season for points per game in 1987 was 23.9 points per game. His highest for rebounds was 9.6 in 1982. As for assists, 13.1 in 1984. He played alongside one of the greatest players ever in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and other notable Hall of Famers such as Bob McAdoo and James Worthy. He really was the heart and soul of his team though, and will always be considered as one of the greatest Lakers ever. In the playoffs, he averaged 19 points per game and 12 assists, scoring 3,700 points in his playoff career and dishing out over 2,000 assists. However, his place in the top 5 is endangered at the moment for me, given LeBron is making a strong case that he deserves to be there. As an overall player, you can say LeBron James is better than Magic, because despite not being the distributor Magic is, and my god, LeBron is close. LeBron is everything else and more. More athletic, stronger, and probably just as good a shooter. However, this is no disrespect to the great Magic Johnson. He will always be one of the greats and has changed the game forever. Had he not contracted HIV, his career could have been very different. Magic Johnson also played on the 1992 Dream Team in Barcelona. Anyway, moving on. Number 4, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant to me is one of my favourite players and the reasons I started liking basketball. And his career was nothing short of sensational, being the closest thing to Michael Jordan. Kobe Bryant in his 20 years in the league won 5 NBA championships, participated in the All-Star game 18 times and made the playoffs 15 times. He had an MVP shy career, only winning 1 in 2008. But you can make strong cases for other years, but that's not something I'm going to get into in this video. Kobe Bryant won the Finals MVP 2 times, games and proved he could win without Shaq winning back-to-back titles in 2009-2010. Shaq only winning one with the Heat without Kobe. Kobe made the All-NBA first team 11 times, an All-NBA defensive team 12 times, and was the scoring leader twice. Never did Kobe lead the league in assists or steals. Kobe may have tarnished his career numbers towards the end of his career, but still the numbers are impressive, averaging 25 points per game, 5.2 rebounds and 4.7 assists for his career. Kobe is third all-time in scoring 33,643 career points. He also has 6,306 assists and 7,000 plus rebounds. Kobe played over 1,300 games in the NBA. Kobe shot 44% from the field, and despite being one of the greatest shooters ever, only shot 32% for free. I believe Kobe's shooting percentage is down to his shot selection, convincing himself that he can make contested half-court threes while Dikembe Mutombo and Shaquille O'Neal are in his mouth. Kobe was an 83% free throw shooter and averaged 35.4 points per game in 2006, a year which he didn't end up winning MVP. His best season for rebounds was in 2003, where he averaged 6.9, and his best year for assists was in 2014, where he averaged 6.3. He also averaged a block a game in 1999. Kobe averaged 25 points per game in the playoffs and scored 5,640 points in the postseason. His best year in the playoffs, where he averaged 32.8 points per game, was in 2007. In 2001 he averaged 7.3 rebounds and 6.1 assists. Kobe has also scored the second most points in a game ever, scoring 81 points against Jalen Rose and the Toronto Raptors, a game which you can make an argument was more impressive than Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game in the 60s. Kobe Bryant is one of the greatest winners in NBA history and one of the all-time great clutch shot makers. Even Magic Johnson believes him to be the greatest Laker of all time. I have to say, with 5 NBA titles, third most points in NBA history, 20 years in the league and second most points in a single game, it's hard to make a case for Kobe not to be top 5. This is all just my opinion. Moving on to the top 3. Number 3, Wilt Chamberlain. Now guys, remember at the start of the video what I said about accomplishments plus talent. Despite only having 2 NBA championships, mainly because he was playing against a dream team in the Boston Celtics for the majority of his career, the numbers of Wilt Chamberlain are too good to sleep on. I believe Wilt Chamberlain was more talented than Kareem, but Kareem's accomplishments outweigh Wilt Chamberlain's, which is why Kareem is ahead of Wilt Chamberlain on my list. Wilt Chamberlain played 14 NBA seasons, participated in the playoffs 13 times, and was an NBA champion twice. Wilt Chamberlain was the MVP of the league 4 times and won 1 finals MVP as well. He won his championships with Jerry West and the Lakers and the Philadelphia Warriors. Wilt Chamberlain was all defensive first team twice, made 10 All-NBA teams, and made the All-NBA first team 7 times. Wilt Chamberlain led the league in rebounds 11 times and led the league in scoring 7 times in his 14-year career. Wilt Chamberlain also led the league in assists 1 year. Also to add to his illustrious career, he won Rookie of the Year. Over the course of his career, Wilt Chamberlain averaged 30 points, 23 rebounds, 4.4 assists, and in his regular season career scored 31,419 points. Wilt Chamberlain grabbed 24,000 rebounds in his career, assisted over 4,600 times as well. Wilt shot 54% from the field and 51% from the free throw line. Wilt Chamberlain is believed to be the best athlete of all time, being the strongest and fastest basketball player ever. The NBA made it that you have to shoot from behind the line when taking free throws because Wilt Chamberlain would simply dunk from the free throw line every time he went to the strike. In 1962, Wilt Chamberlain over the course of a season averaged 50 a game. In 1961 he averaged 27 rebounds per game, and in 1968 he averaged 8.6 assists per game. Wilt Chamberlain's numbers in the playoffs weren't as impressive but still very impressive, averaging 22 and 24. Wilt Chamberlain scored 3,600 points in the playoffs and grabbed almost 4,000 rebounds. In 1961 he averaged 37 points per game in the playoffs. In 1966 he averaged 30 rebounds per game in the playoffs, and in 1967 he averaged 9 assists per game in the playoffs. In 1962 Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points, the most points in a singular game against the New York Knicks on March the 2nd. Wilt Chamberlain has an NBA record most points scored in a half, 59 in the second half versus the New York Knicks on the same day. Wilt Chamberlain also has the NBA record for most 50-point games in a season, 45 in 1961 to 1962. He holds the NBA record for most points per game in a season, where he also holds the next 3 spots. Wilt Chamberlain had 271 40-point games, 118 50-point games, and 32 60-point games. He also has the NBA record for most consecutive 50-point games, which is 7. In 1962, Wilt Chamberlain had the NBA record most consecutive 30-point games, which is 65. As a rookie, he averaged 37 points per game. He also had an NBA NBA record fewest games to reach 20,000 points, 499. He led the NBA in free throw attempts, and Wilt Chamberlain's most impressive stat of all was he slept with over 20,000 women. Wilt Chamberlain was obviously head and shoulders above any player in his time, and I believe these numbers are too good to ignore, and that's why I have him at number 3 on my list. Anyway, moving on to number 2 on my list. Number 2, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. To me, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the only player whose career can rival Michael Jordan's. Kareem won 6 NBA championships, played 20 seasons in the league, participated in the playoffs 18 times, 19 All-Star games, and won 6 regular season MVPs. Kareem made the All-NBA first team 10 times, led the league in blocks 4 times, led the league in rebounds once, and he led the league in scoring twice. He was also Rookie of the Year. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has also scored the most points in NBA history, and has a move which many believe to be the most unstoppable shot of all time, the skyhook. Kareem averaged 24 points per game in his regular season career whilst pulling 11 rebounds, averaging 2.6 blocks and dishing out 4.4 assists as well. Kareem scored a total of 38,387 points in his career and grabbed over 17,400 rebounds, also dishing out 5,000 plus assists, whilst also having 3,189 blocks and 5,660 assists. Kareem's field goal percentage was 55% and was a 72% free throw shooter. His best season for points per game was in 1972, where he averaged 34.8 points per game. His best year for rebounds though was in 1976, where he averaged 16.9 rebounds per game. In the same year he averaged 4.1 blocks. His NBA playoff stats show 24.3 points per game, 10.5 rebounds, 2.4 blocks and 3.2 assists. Kareem also has a total of 5,762 points in the playoffs. Kareem's points per game in the playoffs in 1970 rivaled that of Wilt Chamberlain's with 35.2 points per game. In 1972 he averaged 18.2 rebounds and 5.1 assists, and in 1979 he averaged 4.1 blocks. Kareem's regular season career high in points was against the Boston Celtics in 1971, where he scored 55. His playoff career high for points was in 1970, where he scored 46 points versus the Philadelphia 76ers. Kareem had 70 40-point games, 55 with the Milwaukee Bucks and 15 with the Lakers, and played 57,446 career minutes. Going with my logic of accomplishments plus talents, Kareem is second on my list, as I believe 6 NBA championships and 6 MVPs while scoring the most points in NBA history warrants being only second best to 1, and I wonder who that might be. Number 1, Michael Jordan. Who else would be number 1 on my all-time greatest players list? Number 23 of the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Michael Jordan won 6 NBA titles in his 15 years in the league. Possibly could have won 8 titles straight if he didn't retire and go to baseball for a year. Every year Jordan played in the league he made the playoffs. He won 5 regular season MVPs, 6 for 6 with 6 finals MVPs as his finals record. He made the All-NBA first team 10 times, made 11 All-NBA teams, made the All-Defensive team 9 times, won Defensive Player of the Year once, and led the league in scoring for 10 years. He was also the steals leader 3 times and won Rookie of the Year. Jordan averaged 30 points per game for his regular season career with 6.2 rebounds and 5.3 assists, 2.3 steals and almost a block. Jordan scored 32,292 career points, had 6,672 rebounds, 5,633 assists, 2,514 steals and 893 blocks in 1,072 games. Jordan shot 49% from the field and 32% from free, and was an 83% free throw shooter. His best individual season for points per game was 1987, where he averaged 37.1 points per game. His best year for rebounds was in 1989, where he averaged 8 boards per game. He also averaged 8 assists that year as well. In 1988 he averaged 3.2 steals a game and 1.6 blocks. Jordan always stepped his game up in the playoffs, averaging 33.4 points per game, 6.4 rebounds and 5.7 assists. Also 2 steals and a block. He scored 5,987 total playoff points. His best year in the playoffs for points per game was 1986, where he averaged 43.7 points per game. In 1997 he averaged 7.9 rebounds per game. In 1985 he averaged 8.5 assists per game. In 1990 he averaged 2.8 steals, and in 1987 he averaged 2.3 blocks. Jordan scored 60 plus points in 5 games, scored scored 40 or more points on 38 occasions. He was also the oldest player in NBA history to lead the league in scoring at 35 years old. He was the oldest player to score 50 points in a game at 38 years old, 315 days, when he scored 51 points against the New Orleans Hornets in December 29, 2001. At 40 years old in 2003, he dropped 43 points against the Nets. It also took him the fewest games to reach 31,000 and 32,000 points. In 1987, Jordan outscored the opponent's starting five 58 to 54. He also led the Chicago Bulls to 72 and 10 in the 1995-96 season, which was an NBA record, until the Golden State Warriors beat it last year. But some may say 72 and 10 has a better ring to it. Michael Jordan's career high was 69 points against the Cavs in 1990, but his most famous game was probably the 63 he dropped on the Boston Celtics in the playoffs. For me, Michael Jordan, with his 6 titles, 5 MVPs and 6 Finals MVPs, is the greatest basketball player to ever do it, and he is universally recognized as such. So yeah guys, that is the end of the video. Obviously I know all you guys won't agree with my list because it's very subject to debate, and I can understand everyone has different opinions on who the top 10 basketball players ever are. But I hope you understand my reasoning combining both accomplishments and talent, and I try to stay as unbiased as possible. However, if you guys do like these NBA sort of videos, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Honourable mentions go to Hakeem Olajuwon, Oscar Robertson, Jerry West and Elgin Baylor, who unfortunately I couldn't fit in my top 10. But anyways, like I said, this is the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. For more NBA type videos, be sure to hit the like button. This is DKM out. Peace.